Hello everyone, welcome to the series on cultural studies, and in this video we are going to discuss the death of the author. Introduction. Roland Barthes' seminal essay, The Death of the Author, 1967, marked a decisive moment in the field of literary theory, particularly within post-structuralism. Barthes challenges the traditional notion of the author as the primary source of meaning in a text, proposing instead that the author is a construct created through language. This radical idea has profound implications for how we interpret texts and understand the relationship between the author, text, and reader. Cultural investment in the author. Barthes identifies a deep-seated cultural investment in the author as the explanatory source of texts akin to God-like figure who originates meaning. This perspective places undue emphasis on the author's intentions and biographical context as the key to understanding a text. In opposition, Barthes stresses the linguistic reality that the author is created only in language and that any text is inherently plural, a space where multiple writings and interpretations intersect. This plurality means that a text cannot be confined to a single authoritative meaning dictated by the author. Plurality of text and reader liberation. Recognition of this plurality is crucial for modern literary practice. Barthes cites the poet Stephen Mallarmé, who advocated for yielding the initiative to words themselves, thereby emphasizing the autonomy of language over the author's control. By declaring the death of the author, Barthes liberates the reader, who is no longer constrained by the authorial fiction of a single, authoritative voice mastering the text. Instead, the reader becomes an active participant in the creation of meaning, free to interpret the text in diverse and multiple ways. The amicable return of the author. Barthes entertains the possibility of an amicable return of the author. This return is not as the original authoritative source, but as a novelistic figure, a set of textual charms constructed in the act of reading. Barthes also explores the notion that the author's I can be written as a text itself, disassembled in writing and removed from any assertion of expressive unity or a coherent self. This perspective aligns the post-structuralist view that identity and meaning are fluid and constructed through discourse rather than fixed and intrinsic. Foucault's author function. Michel Foucault, in his essay What is an Author, 1969, extends Barthes' discussion by proposing the concept of the author function. Foucault's approach examines how the idea of the author varies historically and how it characterizes the existence and circulation of certain discourses within society. This study of the author function raises questions about authorization. Who is allowed to be an author? What texts are granted authority? And how discourses are owned within a cultural and historical context? Power and authority in authorship. Foucault's analysis suggests that the dissociation of authorship into textuality, as advocated by Barthes, can sometimes overlook important questions about power and authority. For instance, who has the power to speak or write, and how are different voices legitimized or marginalized? Foucault's historical approach highlights that the concept of the author is not merely a theoretical abstraction, but is deeply embedded in social practices and institutions that regulate and control discourse. General accounts of the expressions. Authorial intent. The idea that a text's meaning is determined by the author's intended message. Plurality of text. The concept that a text can have multiple interpretations, not confined to a single meaning. Author function. Foucault's notion that the author is a role created by societal and cultural norms, not an inherent origin of meaning. Comparing with philosophical accounts, Barthes and Foucault's ideas align with existentialist and phenomenological views of subjectivity and the creation of meaning. Existentialism emphasizes the individual's creation of meaning in an absurd world, paralleling Barthes' view of the reader creating meaning from the text. Phenomenology, focusing on experiences and consciousness, resonates with the idea that the author is constructed through the act of writing. Contrasting with structuralist perspectives, which emphasize fixed meanings and stable structures in texts, post-structuralism sees texts as fluid and open to various interpretations. Structuralism focuses on the underlying structures that govern meaning, whereas post-structuralism, as seen in Barthes and Foucault's work, highlights the instability of meaning and the active role of the reader and society in shaping it. Examining traditional arguments. Traditional arguments often center on the importance of understanding the author's background and intentions to fully grasp a text's meaning. This perspective holds that the author's life and intentions are crucial for interpreting their work accurately. In contrast, Barthes' declaration of the death of the author argues that focusing on the author limits the potential meanings of a text. Instead, he emphasizes the autonomy of the text and the reader's role in creating meaning. Barthes' view liberates the text from being tied to a single authoritative interpretation, opening it up to a multitude of possible readings. Foucault's concept of the author function further critiques traditional notions of authorship by historicizing the role of the author. He suggests that the author is a construct that varies across different historical and cultural contexts. This perspective invites a more critical examination of how societal norms and power structures influence who is recognized as an author and whose voices are marginalized. Revisiting the initial discourse area. Reflecting on how the concepts of the death of the author and author function have influenced contemporary literary criticism and reader response theory, we see a significant shift in focus from the author to the reader and the text itself. Reader response theory, which emerged in the late 20th century, aligns with Barthes' idea by emphasizing the reader's active role in creating meaning. This approach considers the reader's interpretation as central to understanding a text. In modern digital and media studies contexts, the death of the author has taken on new dimensions. The rise of collaborative and participatory media, such as wikis and social media platforms, challenges traditional notions of authorship. These platforms often involve multiple contributors, making it difficult to attribute a text to a single author. This phenomenon reflects Barthes' idea of the text as a space where multiple writings intersect and highlights the fluidity of authorship in the digital age. Moreover, Foucault's historical approach to the author function continues to inform critical studies of authorship in contemporary society. Questions of authorship, authority, and ownership remain relevant in debates over intellectual property, copyright, and the commodification of creative works. Foucault's analysis encourages us to consider how power dynamics shape who is recognized as an author and how texts circulate within society. Conclusion. In conclusion, the post-structuralist theme of the death of the author, as articulated by Roland Barthes and further developed by Michel Foucault, represents a significant shift in literary theory. It moves away from viewing the author as a sole originator of meaning and towards understanding texts as sites of multiple meanings and interpretations. This shift not only transforms the role of the reader but also invites a more critical examination of the cultural and historical functions of authorship. By freeing text from the constraints of authorial intent, post-structuralism opens up as a more dynamic and democratic space for interpretation where meaning is always in flux and continually renegotiated. So this was the discussion on the topic of the death of the author. We will meet in the next video and discuss some other topic. Until then, goodbye and thank you.